Welcome to this brief review of the Four Noble Truths of Buddhism. The Buddhist faith is profound. When I first began to examine Buddhism in the early 1970s, I was immediately fascinated by both its comprehensive philosophy and its psychology-based and reason-centered precepts and practices. Since then, I've interacted with a number of Buddhist practitioners, including lamas, monks, one nun, and even a high commissioner from Sri Lanka, who gifted me with 2 books on Buddhist teachings when I visited him at his residence in Nairobi, Kenya, back in 1976. I believe it is noteworthy and worth recalling that Lord Buddha was born in a family and culture that adhered to the Hindu faith, and that Lord Jesus Christ was born in a family and culture that aligned with the Jewish faith. And as is the case within each of the many branches and denominations of both of these illustrious faiths, all of their followers look to the same cardinal teachings that were given by their original preceptor. And while some Christians especially may disagree, careful comparative study of the essential teachings of these 2 faiths will reveal that there are many undeniable similarities between the 2, which have been reliably demonstrated by a number of religious and other scholars, including Thich Nhat Hanh, who wrote 3 books on the topic, one of which was a top seller entitled Living Buddha, Living Christ. Now, this post is intentionally elementary and is merely intended to present and not explore the 4 noble truths. These 4 truths lie at the very heart of all of Buddhism, notwithstanding the branch, the division, or subdivision. They are highly profound, all-encompassing, and it would take many lives to fully comprehend their enormity, let alone engage in the consistency and depth of practice that will fulfill its goal of revealing the kingdom of truth and enlightenment that sleeps within us all. But be that as it is, earnest study and practice of the teachings and precepts, as is the case with every authentic faith tradition, can be intriguing, illuminating, and delightful. And it will surely lighten our loads and make the journey of life far less agitating. Before beginning, I should note that these 4 truths culminate in what is termed the Eightfold Path. And above all, these teachings are not intended to be hard and fast, unless you are a monk or a nun. They are light posts, guidelines, and banks along the spiritual river that flow into the same sea, which all religions also inevitably flow into. As to religion in general, I wanted to mention that one's particular faith is typically inherited based on the religion that is followed by their family, and/or the predominance of that religion in the society into which they are acculturated. And, as is too often the case, most begin to dismiss, discount, or even condemn other religions while knowing very little to nothing about them. However, know it or not, and accept it or not, if they are able to go beyond such conditioning and the unfamiliar norms and forms of other faiths, they will realize that all religions articulate the same essential principles and objectives. Okay, here we go. The first noble truth is that life is suffering. Yet, given that we do experience some pleasures and happiness in life, why did Buddha say this? Well, let's just consider those aspects of life that bring suffering. The very process of birth is suffering. Pain is suffering. Sorrows, sadness, grief, anxiety, fear, anger, jealousy, loss, despair, denial, discomfort, decay, illness, aging, incapacitation, and death are all suffering. And simply because this suffering is not 24/7 does not mean that it does not exist, and sometimes in great and even chronic measure. The second noble truth describes the origin of suffering. To put it most succinctly, the origin of suffering is desire or craving. In life, we are always seeking something that we believe or have been conditioned to believe will bring pleasure. We are always looking for that next fresh delight that will amuse and please our senses. Sights, sounds, smells, tastes, and bodily impressions that are pleasurable are sought after day and night. Pleasant emotional states and freedom from mental discomfort are also desired. And all this desiring leads to more and more desires. And truth be told, we are hard-pressed to find real and lasting satisfaction. And when we think we have, it is very difficult to remain in that state without seeking more and more. And then we end up singing that old Mick Jagger Rolling Stone song, I can't get no satisfaction. Through this second noble truth, we can understand that pleasure is always experienced between two pains, or at least in relation to those less pleasant states that precede or follow our more enjoyable experience. The third noble truth is that our suffering can actually be extinguished. But you, like me, may ask, how on earth could this be? Well, it can be done by engaging in the self-inquiry and self-effort that is necessary to cause a fading away, an abandonment, a detachment from those cravings and desires that actually lead to suffering. And this can go as deep as life itself when we place things in the right context and begin to identify ourselves with our spirit, our soul, with our consciousness. As the Buddha said, when there is no arising, no passing away, no movement, no standing still, no foothold, no development, and no basis, therein lies freedom from suffering. For in that state, one desires or craves for nothing more and is in total and complete equipoise and perfectly content. Now, the fourth noble truth is that path which leads to this extension or extinction of suffering. And this is known as the Eightfold Path. Extremes of any kind are anathema to this path. And that is why it is also referred to as the middle path or the middle way. Not too much and not too little helps to define this Eightfold Path. which can lead to unsullied peace and eventually to the eternal goal of life itself, which is nirvana, samadhi, enlightenment, or God realization. Here now is the Eightfold Path. But beware, for as simple as they may sound, each is deeper than deep and requires great discernment and principled practice of the highest kind. 1 through 8. Right understanding, right thinking, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. These comprise the fourth noble truth, and they all stand on the unrestricted principles of compassion and do no harm. And these, we must realize, apply as much to ourselves as they do to those we too commonly call the other. Now, if you are inclined towards a deeper and more practical understanding of what has been teasingly presented, please conduct your own research to whatever extent you wish. The principles and precepts are quite easy to find. But when it comes to spiritual topics such as these, we all know that it's practice that matters. For when all is said and done, life is indeed a journey which requires good and reliable directions.